As you guys might know, we threw 40s on this Jeep a couple months ago, and while it's been going great, we've got to add a couple more mods on it here to really dial it in. Today we're down at Locked and Loaded 4x4, and we're gonna hand the mic over to Joe.
What's wrong, Ryan?
Who's got a really neat part we're gonna throw on my Jeep. All right, guys, well, we got Joe on camera here now. He's got the Dirt Road CRED shirt on, too. What are you doing with your hands?
Let's roll it. I don't know what to do with my
like
hands.
the Ron Burgundy. Anyways, we've got a really cool box here, and this is something that we actually special ordered. Joe got this in for the Jeep. So, Joe, let's unbox this, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we got inside here.
So what we got inside is my favorite steering. It's the 2.5-ton RPM steering kit. Comes in polished aluminum. We decided to go with this because it's a little more durable, a little more strong for the steering that he's going to need to run these 40s off-road. What I'd like to do, though, is make a little bit of an instructional video, some tips and tricks for install. It's not rocket science, but there are some things you can do to kind of make this easy. So I'm gonna unbox it. This is what we got.
Wait, who gets these though? Who gets the
lollipops? The kid usually gets them. So this is your tie rod, your drag link. You get 4 TRE ends, Belleville washer. This is a key to this whole kit. End link, newly updated, anti-roll ends. Don just did these. Really durable boot. This is what you get in that.
So what's the biggest perk to that? So you said it was redesigned, 2.5-ton ends. It's way beefier than anything I'd ever have on this Jeep.
Yeah. So I don't think it's any secret. People used to have some issues with these thinner jam nuts unlocking and coming loose, especially with heavy articulation. So what they did was they almost doubled up the jam nut, so it's about twice as wide now. So once you get this locked in with that concave Belleville washer on, it's pretty much locked for good. You mark it, you set it. If you see the mark move, you can retorque it. We're not having as many problems or any problems really with these coming loose as we were some of the other steering kits. And now that he made this change, we're having no problems at all on his specific kit. There's a multitude of clamps you can buy. So this one is actually for the Fox ATS and the Falcon. It's dual. So with the Falcon, you take these 2 spacers and the Falcon stud, and it actually goes on that one. For the ATS, it comes with the same thing, but like a smaller, I think it's like a bullet head.
Yeah, they're a little bit different.
It's like a weird bullet head Allen that goes through, but it's for the pass-through on the ATS. So when you're on the website, if you go to RPM Steering, make sure when you pick your steering system out, you let them know on the site which stabilizer you intend to run, or if it's going to be in a stock location, and you will get the absolute right product. Easy stuff like this. Your grease fittings are come in a bag. You're going to need an 8mm wrench for that. Now, we're going to get them started by hand. And I usually go about a half turn past hand tight.
So don't grab the impact and start.
No, do not go fast with these because you're gonna see there's a little bit of space there. Don't go past that. So hand tight, and then maybe a half turn past with your 8mm. That's the initial starting point. So you get all your grease fittings in. So these threads are smooth as butter with the E-coating on it, but we still like to take the guards off. Another great packing feature. Keep the threads from getting marred. So I usually don't do any anti-seize past that midway point, right? And it's gonna smear and it's gonna spread. What we don't want it to do is we don't want it to ride all the way up and get under this Belleville and under this jam nut because that's, you know, how it's gonna come loose. So this is going to be your passenger side tie rod end. Before I put this in, these are actually your stock mounting locations. So if you did want to mount your stock stabilizer or an aftermarket ATS or an aftermarket Falcon that comes with the JL or Gladiator clamp, you run it right off of this and it'd be behind your tie rod. We opted for flipping to the top side of the tie rod, which is why we got our 2-inch clamp. Now we're gonna pull this behemoth of a tie rod out of here, and these are reverse threaded, and I'm gonna get it wrong first. We're gonna get this started. Hey, I got it. And then what I like to do is on the foam that comes with the box, put this between my feet and get your wrists torquing. By the time you start installing this, your veins are gonna be bulging because you're getting your pump on.
I don't know if we could keep this shot, right?
Why? This is how we do it. What's wrong, Ryan? Ryan, what's so funny?
Give it that hook to, you know.
All right, so we like to get them all the way buried. It's not necessary because before alignment, what we'll do is once these are on the Jeep, we'll put toe plates on it. We'll get like a semi-drivable measurement, and then we'll get it up to the alignment rack. So this is actually a no-no, and I did this on purpose. A mistake a lot of people make when putting these together is they glob up the anti-seize, and what's happening is as I'm going in, that anti-seize is actually coming out. What will eventually happen is when I close out all this thread, if there's still some there, it's gonna get under this jam nut when we tighten it, no doubt. That's how you're gonna lose your jam nut torque. So what we're gonna do is when we get to about midway point, we're gonna wipe this off with some WD-40 and we're gonna keep moving, but the idea is no anti-seize under the, you back up a little. we're gonna put we're gonna put the WD-40 on it, wipe it off, and then we're gonna make sure it doesn't get under the jam nut, lock her up real nice. So now that we got everything pre-assembled, end links are in, everything was anti-seized, any overrun of anti-seize was wiped down. We're just gonna inspect all our parts. We make sure all our jam nuts are moving, everything looks good. We have our clamp. You're gonna need a small array of tools, depending on what it is you have at your disposal or what you wanna use. We use 1/2" impacts, we use 3/8 impacts. The most important thing you're gonna want, I think, is a way to tighten these jam nuts down really good. We use a 1 7/8, or what's the other size? 48 mil will work. What I'm finding is not everybody's got these monster wrenches. You can get them pretty cheap from Harbor Freight. You don't have to get suckered into buying monster Snap-on or Matco ones. But you can also use a pretty big pipe wrench, and if you have a good size, like 2-foot pipe, you need to get like 300 foot-pounds of torque on them to be comfortable. A 19 mil for these ends, maybe a decent set of pliers or needle nose for the cotter pins when that time comes, push through and bend. And then you're gonna need a few things to get the stock steering off. You're always gonna need a wrench for this side, because you just can't get anything up there. And then you can use hand tools or a 1/2" for these guys. Crack them with a hammer, you're out. New stuff in. One thing I like to encourage when taking off, whether it's a stock steering or your existing steering kit, is instead of taking your hardware all the way off before you strike your knuckle with a hammer, put it back on. This way, if you're on jack stands or sitting under it or anything like that, nothing's gonna come down and crack your shin or hit your hand or your arm. Ask me how I know. So I'm gonna have Junior come over here and crack one of these. So the best way to do this, like I said, you put the hardware back on loosely, and you're gonna probably hit this area and this area, strike them enough times, that steering is gonna drop out. And then what you can do from there is you just hold it and bring it out. Joey, crack that. So now, because that wasn't there, it would have just done this and fell out. And if you're sitting under it, that's probably shin range. So that makes it a little bit easier. It's just like a catching thing. We're doing that other side. We're actually still gonna put this back on to retain it, so when that side drops, we have no fear of anything happening. Now it's just as easy as that. We're out over here, and we're out over there. All right, so Alex has the tie rod here. He's just sticking them back through the factory knuckle location. This is a standard kit, no flip. If we were to do a flip kit, however, we would be drilling out this and putting a tapered sleeve in there, and that would just take this, pick it up for a little more clearance and a little flatter geometry. Sometimes we get into that on JKs with larger lifts, 4.5 and up. This one we're gonna keep standard. The JL platform still has plenty of room to run a top-mounted stabilizer, so we're gonna get the drag link and the tie rod installed now, get everything loose fitted, throw some toe plates on, get some semi-accurate measurements, and then go to our stabilizer. Okay, so now that we have the RPM tie rod and drag link all placed on the vehicle correctly, we got our 19mm bolts tight, our cotter pins through and bent, our 8mm grease fittings in and tightened. It's time to pick your steering stabilizer location. Matt already had an existing Falcon neutral bypass 2.2, I think this is, Nexus 2.2? Yeah. Whatever the case, it's adjustable, soft, medium, firm. When I talk about behind tie rod, above tie rod, so behind tie rod is your stock location, and that's where these two holes come in. So a lot of times guys can run it from here, and then it bolts into these 3 bolts via either the stock bracket or a bracket. If you call Don at RPM, he'll send you a bracket that does that. In our case, we're gonna go above the tie rod, and we're gonna use his monstrous 2-inch machined, what is this, nickel plated silver? Is it nickel? I think it's nickel. It's nickel coated, it doesn't rust. It's almost as, beefy as aluminum. So it's gonna go here. We use a Clayton bracket on our side because that's our preferred suspension manufacturer forever, obviously. So Clayton makes a nice little bracket here to straighten that up. We set this at about the halfway mark. And then once you get your toe measured out where you would like it, we put this on. Now, pro tip, I don't know if this is a pro tip, what I usually tell people to do, because once you bite these, there's 6 Allen keys in here, and they are a little difficult to get to with a big-headed stabilizer like this, is just keep this off. Get your steering dialed in, take a few test drives. When you get happy with where your steer head is and your toe is, or even if you're taking it to an alignment shop, you can drive with this steering 100% without a stabilizer. Get everything set up, dialed in the way you want it, then put your stabilizer on, because then it'll save you from having to go back and forth and taking all these Allens. We all know Allens strip, no matter how good they are. If you hit them the wrong way or if you go at them too many times, they just start to circle out. So we're trying to avoid that by putting this on last. But that's about where everything's gonna sit.
On today's viewer rig of the video, we're checking out Alex's 2022 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited in the limited run Beach Edition. So he's got an Oracle rear bumper with LED reverse lights, Raxium smoke taillights. He's got an MP Concepts forged aluminum front bumper, which I was actually curious to see because they're just like the stock steel bumpers. A Badland 12,000 pound synthetic rope winch, carbon fiber steering wheel from MHF, just like what we've got on there. And then a couple other goodies, including the Voss Switch JL400 grab handle aux switches, which we had a chance to check out in person, and they look awesome. But honestly, such a good looking Jeep, and Alex is a great fan of the channel and actually had a chance to park next to us when we did our meet and greet down in Daytona. Alex, thank you so much for submitting and being such a great fan of this channel. We really appreciate you and a beautiful looking Jeep. So if you guys want to have a chance at your rig being featured, be sure to hit us up through Instagram or send us an email.
All right, guys, well, honestly, about an hour and a half later, we've got everything bolted up here, and we were even filming. This thing looks beefy. The RPM steering underneath here, I mean, that's some big quality components. Joe, give it to me straight. What are the pros of this kit, and kind of who is the right person that would add this kit to their Jeep?
So when you really get your hands around it, you can feel the quality of the beef. It's gonna add benefits when you're running, you know, everybody's running 37s, now pushing 40s, and even pushing 42s and 44s. You're gonna get a lot more structure. You're gonna feel like that rigidity where you feel the road, but it's easier to turn. There's no real cons. Even the price point's really good. I mean, to get all wrapped up in this with a quality stabilizer and an alignment, you're like $2,000. One thing I'm gonna insist upon, when you do something like this yourself, you always want to call around and find a reputable alignment shop. And there's a lot of guys that do amazing alignments, but they're not really proficient with Jeeps. You really have to find somebody that understands Jeeps, because there's so many little things they could do once they get your toe, your caster, and all that set. If they tighten the wrong way and they're not holding the rod when they tighten the jam nut, they can throw your toe off just the slightest little bit, and that could mean a set of 40s cupping, over a 20,000 mile time frame. More pros, off-road. Off-road, this is where this kit really shines. Like, literally jam this up on a rock. I've seen it bend like a bow and arrow, come off a rock, and just go right back. There's not much steel out there that will do that these days. I mean, there's companies that claim they can do it, but not come off a rock without breaking everything involved.
That's what we've been hearing. Yeah, no, it looks fantastic. I really appreciate you installing it, getting it on here. We love coming down to Locked and Loaded 4x4. There's always projects going on down here, cool parts to install.
So one thing I want to thank everybody for the outpouring of everything. I've always had a well-stacked parking lot, but we have people calling from Chicago and putting deposits. They're coming for 2 days to get builds done, all because they've seen me, Alex, and Joey, and it's just two of us for the most part, me and Alex, and then my 13-year-old son who helps in the summer. Small town shop, so we're like really flattered that we've gotten this kind of outpour of people that like our quality of work so much, or whatever it is that they like about me or Alex, that they're willing to take that kind of drive. We want to build your Jeep the same way we would build our Jeep, so you can go out, get the living beep out of them, and have some fun with it and get back on the road and drive like nothing ever changed. When are you gonna come out and get your CRED?
Oh yeah, we're gonna plan that. So for all the other haters on the internet that have been commenting, it takes a little bit to build up the Jeep, so we got it a little bit more built up here. We're gonna plan a big trip to AOAA, and anyone that wants to comment on that one, come to that trip.
When I get them the Roush, I'm gonna get them some CRED.
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun. So either way though, my name's Matt, this is Joe, that's Ryan behind the camera, and we want you to get out there and earn yours.